So we have our favorite person, Jenni Hill, back here today, talking about attractive abundance. We're going to talk about the nervous system. You all know what your nervous system is, right? That's okay. Connects your brain. It does make you nervous. Starts in the brain and it ends at the tips of the fingers and the tips of the toes. We're going to learn about regulation, behavior, and sustainable life from Jenni, who has had an amazing journey dealing with it all, learning how to handle it and how to help you guys feel better. So, you ready, Jenni?
I'm ready.
All right, take it away.
Thanks, Nicole.
Thanks, Nicole. All right, guys. I know you guys all came because you knew that I would make a PowerPoint presentation and it's your favorite thing on the planet. So you might ask yourself, why would this group of people want to know about your nervous system? It's very different than a lot of other topics that we have come through, because we all have one, and most of this group of people avoid taking care of theirs. So I'm not going to, no, I'm just using discernment and stating facts. So my thought was to introduce you guys to some of the science behind the way your body works, because so we're self-aware. If you want to know why I think this work is important, it's a little personal. I have had death and suicide around me for as long as I could think. I've had my own bout with cancer, which is very pertinent actually to this information. And when I started working in massage therapy, I noticed patterns in people's bodies. So we're talking about muscular patterns that are related to emotional states. So we're going to go over into who I am. I focus primarily on nervous system. If you come get a massage for me, it's not that I can't do just your standard session. Lots of people come to me specifically for nervous system work. I see about 40% of my clientele before I relocated back to Tennessee were combat veterans. And this is primarily because people who are not ready to talk about it have access through things that I do to get some relief in their nervous system before they feel ready to talk about it. I also work with herbs, and Bach flower remedies. This is, I do trauma-informed herbalism, so this is a thing that I encourage across the board with people. Herbs are just an important part of your life, especially if you're somebody who uses a lot of medications. There's a lot of great supportive herbs too. So I'm sure you guys heard a lot of that from Sherry. So moving on, it matters how you pattern. So if you're somebody who is like, go, 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 and then you hit a slump and you're like, oh, well, now I need to go backwards. You're not putting a lot of effort into what you're doing. So you're burning out, you're avoiding opportunity, you are creating physical pain patterns. There are so many things going on, but most people think I just need to do better. Just need to push through. I just need to get through this hurdle. And instead of asking, is my nervous system telling me something? Is it giving me information? Is it giving me that feedback so that I can maybe not put myself in a negative pattern, so I'm not regressing and not self-sabotaging or just missing out on great opportunities in your life. So one thing that your body does all the time is ask if you're safe. You use your autonomic nervous system for this. So you have three primary types of activation. So you have sympathetic activation. This is that fight or flight that we talk about. And your parasympathetic activation, this is when you rest and digest. Most of us avoid this one until it's bedtime and we just completely crash out. We push through and push through and push through thinking I'll get to sleep. And then most of the time your sleep is not restful because you've been in fight or flight. Shutdown is when you just can't. You can't even anymore. What's happening inside your body is your blood flow changes, your hormones will change, your immune activity will change, and so does your neural processing. So even if you're not aware of it, your body's always communicating with other parts of your body. which means, we'll use an example. I'm mad at somebody. And without me consciously telling my body to say, we're going to release cortisol, we're going to create a physical bracing pattern. And all of those things are going to affect like what my cells are doing in my body too. And since my cells give out signals, the upset is competing with what my body needs to function normally. So you might think that your thoughts create the way you are, and you can do all the mindset work that you want to. Mindset is a huge part, but it's not everything. If you're in the middle of combat, you can't think yourself out of that. Your body's going to have a visceral response. You're going to think, get to safety, right? Because that's your number one thing that your body is doing for you. It's telling you to get to that place of safety. So in your day-to-day life, though, it's very different. Not the process, but like what you might be afraid of, right? So if you're regulated, your brain has access to long-term planning, emotional processing, and decision-making. If something in your life is keeping you in a constant turmoil, you cannot think straight. You're thinking everything's a threat, and you can't think long-term. You're thinking about what immediately is happening now. So that sort of thing is, we call it activation or dysregulated state. It's where your nervous system is saying that person's bad or that thing is bad and we need to get away from it, or we need to hide from it, or you go to freeze, or there are different types of states that you can go into through that. So you have behavior drivers. These are our 5 behavior drivers. Safety, like I said, is the number one. So your nervous system is always going to prioritize survival over optimization. So if you're constantly in survival mode, your body is not functioning properly. Familiarity is another driver. It will out every single time. How many of us in this room have toxic family members? How many of us still engage with those toxic family members? No, well, some of us have learned to move on. But for the most part, I'll ask you a question actually. How long did it take you to get there? For a long time.
Probably 30 years.
So when we're going through there's a load we have to, right? We'll go to the next. Energy efficiency. This is where your brain's designed to conserve energy. How many people in this room have had a hard time getting out of bed? How many people have had a hard time getting out of bed because you don't want to go to work? How many people in this room have not wanted to go to work because it's a toxic work environment? So your brain is telling you as soon as you wake up in the morning, absolutely not. And you're going to override that by saying, but I have bills. So you're going right back into that self-preservation. So in your emotional state, which is the driver, you don't decide and feel, you feel and then decide. So how many people have been walking down an alley and somebody's walking behind you and you felt that, like, maybe I should walk a little faster, right? Your body felt it before your mind thought it. And then social belonging. People will often choose to belong over discomfort. I find that to be true at least 95% of the time. It's mob mentality in some ways, where you see a group of people who start being upset. We have mirror neurons in our brain. So when we see somebody else upset, we get upset and it spreads and it spreads and it spreads. So social belonging, we're hardwired for it, but it's also because, back to safety, our brain is saying, like, if I resist against this person, then what? Then I'm a potential threat to them, and then they're a threat to me. which brings us to self-sabotage. So self-sabotage is actually a protection. It's not a failure as much as people would like to say that. Your brain is already doing what you have trained it to do. So this is one of those places where mindset work can help, because you have to literally sometimes tell yourself opposite of what you believe is true. Lots of times, though, we do things like we were talking about with work. I don't want to get out of bed. I'll do this when this happens, right? And we know that the other thing might not happen, especially if it's dependent on somebody else. Or I don't want to feel that way. Or I don't want that responsibility. And I'll just have this donut and go back to bed because I love him. And so instead of pushing through those moments where our brain is signaling us, we go back to our familiar patterns because that feels safe. But I wanted to talk about shutdown a little separately, because I've been part of the community for a decade, essentially. The amount of times I see people quit on something, and then I hear conversation about why that happened. More often than not, that person's already reached their limit. They've already said, enough is enough. I have no more try for that. But what is happening to your body is you start having feelings, which suggests the dorsal vagal shut down. Your amygdala goes completely offline. Your body is starting to preserve energy. But then you stop preserving your sense of self. When you do this, this means that you're not that's not safety anymore. You're not self-preserving anymore. So you're not getting out of bed to eat. In my arena, I see self-harm. Because people hit their limit and there's not more space. There's not, so you know how we talked about that narrowed view of what your brain can perceive when you're in a dysregulated state. So most of those people completely shut down, and we do see it often. This is the thing I hear all the time. I say this all the time, and that is a mindset thing. The language you use for yourself is important, but this isn't the only part. But wait, there's more. We all have relationships. We all have relationships with each other. A lot of you, we've had one-on-one conversation. We talk when we're at events like this. We chat with each other. But how many people get tired after a day of doing that? A lot of people get really tired doing it. But when we're around people consistently, we are co-regulating with people. So we're monitoring their tone, their emotional state, their physiological rhythms. So every relationship you had adds a load. Some of those relationships are good, right? Some of those are destabilizing. So they keep you in that low grade fight or flight constantly. When it's your spouse or one of your children, this is brutal because you're probably getting it at work, getting it at home. Sleep is probably the only time you get peace, and you probably dream about it sometimes too. So imagine you're a bridge, though. And the reason I use the suspension bridge is because these are all your relationships, right? If I start taking these down, do you think that bridge is going to hold? No. Eventually, it's going to collapse, which means your decision making is completely off. So some of your dysregulated system reaction will be becoming reactive. Short-term relief wins. This is that having that donut. Your clarity decreases. So sometimes when we see people with exposure to long-term trauma, their idea of what actually happened and what actually happened can be two completely different things. And that's for different reasons too. Sometimes it's memory recall. Sometimes things are suppressed because you neurologically cannot handle what you're going through. And so you get little bits and pieces throughout after. In a regulated environment, though, your decisions are clear. Your long-term thinking, you can project 5 years out in the future. How many times have you been asked, where do you see yourself in 5 years? Your stability increases. So we're going to go even deeper. Gene expression is impacted by your nervous system. So when you're having, let's say you've experienced a trauma, you've created your stress hormone patterns, your immune system's dysregulated, you're having inflammation. How many people get a headache when they're stressed out? And then the genes that signal repair and adaptation just don't function the way that they should. So here's the other thing. Sometimes what's actually happening and what you think is happening are two different things. I think I learned as I've been learning about nervous systems is that, especially when you have childhood memories, sometimes when you revisit those, your memory of what happened or your perception of what happened at the time is very different than what actually happened. I'm not saying that you're wrong. Your feelings will always be, I will always validate your feelings 100%. But your body will respond to what it thinks is happening every time, no matter what. If I ran up to Letty Nicole right now, Nicoletti, but she didn't know what my intention was, she would have one of two reactions. She'd either get excited that I'm running to her, or she would cower and guard herself because what if she's going to punch me? So we are bioelectrochemical and mechanical people. And these are things that are impacted by the way our body is supposed to function. So our internal chemical signaling, which comes from inside, outside, and all the way around, can influence our physiological conditions. So going to kind of give you an idea what bioelectrical is. Every cell carries a charge. Charges are the voltage of the charge is generated by ions, and that gradient drives like nutrient transportation, waste removal, all those things. So if you are in a fight or flight state, do you think these things are going to function properly? I'm going to talk a little bit about mechanotransduction, piezoelectricity, and scalar energy, but I wanted to give a kind of cliff note here. Scalar energy is not actually recognized by the medical world at all, but I will tell you momentarily why I included it. So the body converts mechanical force into chemical and electrical signals. So this is bone remodeling, collagen and fascia response, cellular cytoskeletons forcing proteins into the nucleus. Do we have questions at this point? Because I'm using some bigger words right now that I know that probably almost none of you studied. I said almost. So piezoelectricity is, you guys have, one out of all y'all? I thought y'all were preppers.
Sit in here.
Okay.
Mine's in my bag, but
anyway, when you spark a lighter, there's a crystal inside, right? So when you use down and the crystal sparks, that's the ignition, right? Okay. That's okay. Okay. I want you to come here for a second.
Oh no.
I'm just going to hug you.
Here comes that punch.
This is mechanotransduction and piezoelectricity. I'm hugging her, which means her cells are having a response, which means she's having, I don't know if I can say this. She's having a hormonal response. And that simple thing is something that can change. It can alter the trajectory of what our cells are capable of doing. That one thing. But scalar energy, to get back on topic, which is the theory of wave behavior, right? So the reason I bring this up is because I believe that frequency can influence us. A lot of us here probably do. Because if I can hug her and create a response, then it makes sense to think something that impacts frequency is a force. It makes sense to me to think that it can affect your tissue and nervous system. So even humming, this is the thing I teach my clients. You pull down on your earlobes and you hum 60 seconds, stimulates your vagus nerve. The amount of times that brings somebody down from a heightened state to a lowered one, absolutely just wonderful to see, because that means your body is doing something right. So we just in here. Okay, so then we're going to go into capacity. This is where your nervous system being regulated creates the abundance. Because, hey Ian, can I borrow $3,000 from you? Oh, stop. How about Letty? Can I borrow $3,000 from you?
If I get enough clients next month, sure.
Y'all stop that. Say no. Say no. No. Okay. Because if she doesn't have it to give to me, she can't give it to me, right? Which means when you're interacting with people, if they don't have it to give you, they can't give it to you. So capacity is the ability to receive, process, or sustain without overloading. Do you remember when we talked about self-sabotage a minute ago? Most of us self-sabotage because we can't hold the opportunity. We can't hold good things. And that's why we do that. So your nervous system, your personal energy, your capacity, your relationships, your environment. Anybody in here ever gone through extreme depression? Did you get up in the morning with a smile on your face and clean your house and go to work not looking disheveled?
One time I had kids.
Once. So who you're around, that co-regulation that we do with people, the environment that we're around, things are impacting our nervous system regularly. So I'll give you a rundown in a way that makes sense to me, because I actually do not prefer being up here speaking. It's not my favorite thing. If you put your hand on my chest right now, one thing, please don't. Also, you would feel that my heart is racing. That's my nervous system response. While I think the information's important, being up here with my southern accent where people still say, did you say Janie or Jenny? Like that happens regularly. It's not my favorite thing. So, but I want you guys to have some thoughts about what your body's doing. While just as once you have information, you can change the trajectory of what's happening. So let's say I walk into a room like this one, and immediately I think, oh God, I don't want to do this. This is wrong. If something feels off. So my posture changes, and my breathing changes, and my muscles tense. And my brain is saying, are you safe right now? And then I shift into this stress state, right? This cortisol rising, and my breath is shallow, and my mouth gets dry, and my muscle tones continuing to increase. So in my work, we call that a bracing pattern. And then I think none of you guys like me. So I'm going to hide over and talk to you guys and not look at you, because my prefrontal cortex is not online. my survival instincts have kicked in. And then I don't want to tell anybody anything because they already don't like me. So I'm going to leave and feel absolutely drained from that interaction. You're going to talk smack about me later about how weird I was. And I don't want to do this again. Definitely not speaking in front of people. But in that moment that all this is happening, and this is just a brief moment, my brain has narrowed my vision of perception of what's actually happening in the environment around me. And I'm having a perceived idea of what's happening around me. And so even if none of that is true, and now I've trained it to believe it. Here's where it impacts your money, your self-sabotage, your ability to earn. I don't know if you know this, guys, but I launched a tea business today, and there's a little sample over there. And if I hadn't done all of this work on myself before, I would be like, I'll just make you guys tea. You can just have it. It's fun. But I can't because to what end? I believe that I deserve to have these things, but others in here may not. They may not understand that goal to people please or to help people sometimes is actually a dysregulated nervous system. So let's say I have a higher paying client who comes in and is like, I will buy all your teas, or I will buy your whole company for $4 million. And in my mind, I'm going to go into panic, right? First of all, I'm listening to the person speaking to me, and this is going to influence some of the signal that I'm getting. I don't want the responsibility or the taxes for $4 million. And I don't want anybody to ask me for money when I get it, if I do that. And all these other things are happening, right? I go right back into panic mode. And then my amygdala says, there's a threat. You better run away. My prefrontal cortex, the access is decreased. I can't predict what's going to happen in this because nobody's ever offered me $4 million for my tea company before. So I'm going to be hyper vigilant. I'm going to feel anxious. My cortisol is going to go up. My mind is going to tell me absolute lies, that I can't handle it, that I will mess it up. And instead of responding to that, I'm just going to not, or I'll over explain, or I won't follow up. Even though I know that it would probably increase my quality of life, because if I'm not making tea all day, then I can have more time with my kids. I can sit in the field with the sheep. Which means, and you've reinforced your brain to believe that you actually don't deserve it. Is teach people how to soothe their nervous system. And a lot of, I will tell you when I'm in session, I read your body first. I use acupressure points, meridian lines, good old intuition, amongst other things. I use myofascial release and craniosacral therapy because it can help reset the fascial patterns. But for yourself, here are some things that you can do. You can use breath and sound. So that's your internal sensory feedback. How many of you guys like music? That's what I thought. Karaoke later. But you know how you have that one like anthem song that like no matter what's going on, you need to pick me up, or you've just rocked the day. You have that one song that is your body's way of like resonating with that frequency, saying, this is my jam. I am whatever the lyrics are, you're that. pressure, sensory input, gentle pressure like hugs, rhythmic movement, so even swaying because it's predictable, right? So if I just swayed, I do a lot of swaying when I'm in session too, because not because I'm afraid of something unpredictable happening. Mostly that's for posture, but also it gives me that so I can stay relaxed during your session, because lots of things come up during that time. Your environmental selection. I think this is so underestimated, because I know amongst this group we've talked about you're the sum of the 5 people you hang out with, and then some of us are subject still to people who we would rather not. But your environment influences your nervous system equally to the people that you're around. If you are around terrible people, like that all of your whatever you have to give them is utilized in that, your environment will always suffer, and it becomes a loop. Tone of voice is another thing. If I came and yelled in your face, probably you would think something's wrong with her, or maybe we should run, right? I would activate your nervous system. The opposite's true too, though. Using your voice, but like even slowing it down, like forcing yourself to speak to yourself slowly, can stimulate your vagal pathways, which can help soothe your nervous system. So when I introduced myself, I talked about death being around me all the time. This one's still hard for me. I've lost more people to suicide in my life than any one person should. And last year, I lost a client, a 23-year-old man, veteran, and I have a child that age. To watch him go from who he was really trying hard to be, and to the person who was hypervigilant all the time, getting that call absolutely broke something in me and made this feel more important, because it happened to me a few years before that, where I got a phone call that was, I need you to come and decide to remove life support for a suicide. And it happened that. And I don't want to be somebody who's the people who are so overwhelmed in their life that they can't make a different decision because their brain is telling them this is the only focus. They see no way out. So, sorry about that. So all in all, what I want to do, why I think it's important for you to take care of your own, for you to learn tools for that, is this is your whole quality of life. How many people in this room right now can say out loud, I am genuinely 100% happy with where I'm at? 90%, 80%, 70%, 60%. Do I need to go lower? 50. There are things you can do to change your own internal narrative, to change your system, to change your body, and to bring. I'm going to leave you with a couple of things. This is my favorite quote, because mindset work is part of it. You have to put yourself in a safer environment in order to appreciate this, because I'm sure everybody in here has that one person in their life that says, I can't do that. And a lot of people I interact with will 100% judge that I can't. And maybe they really can't. Maybe they don't have the capacity to find more abundance in their life. But if you're doing work on yourself and you're working on improving your quality of life, then you have tools to teach somebody else to improve their quality of life. And when their quality of life improves, their I can't turns into I can. You're spreading abundance by influencing other people. And then they'll spread abundance by influencing other people. And that's how we change the world, is we get right with ourselves so we can teach other people that they can. And how are we on time? We're good?
You have 7 minutes.
Okay. Next, because I've launched a tea business today. You can scan this QR code and pre-purchase. But I'm open for questions right now. Anybody have any for me?
What kind of tea?
All the teas. I have 4 actually. If you would scan the QR code, it would take you directly to the website.
Then you wouldn't have to deal with her.
What's the pack
guess
size?
I will never know.
Is it a single bottle? Is it,
What's a tea?
yeah, is it like one bottle? Is it leaf? Is it?
It's loose leaf tea.
Okay.
These are some that I designed specifically with my experience. Some of them, and I'm not allowed to say that they like support your lymphatic system, but like the reality is just the act of holding a warm cup does do something for your nervous system too. So even if you don't drink tea, you should buy some so you can just smell it and hold it in your hands because it's comforting, right? It's like putting on warm socks, but for your hands. Yeah. Okay.
Are you doing something with somatic experiencing?
Well, somatic is a lot of things that I do, actually. I do somatic coaching. I do somatics with my clients. I am presently editing curriculum for my somatic work.
I just learned about it, and I was just wondering if you could explain it a little bit, because when I heard it, I specifically heard it in the context of somatic experiencing. So doing the thing that helps you kind of release some of
Like trauma?
yes.
Okay. Well, it's different for everybody because some people have preferred things, and it depends on where you feel it in your body. So for me, somatic experiencing is more about finding it in your body first and then creating movement in order to help move it out. So one of the things that I've noticed specifically in my career field is I notice this with physical or emotional trauma, a guarding pattern. So let's say I get in a car accident and the seatbelt catches me and my shoulder has stayed rounded out. I know adjustment, no anything I've done is fixing it. Now I've created a guarding pattern. And when you have a guarding pattern, your fascia has the ability to keep communicating you're still in that situation, which is why it freezes in that pattern. Sometimes it's more than just physiological. Sometimes it's emotional. I noticed when I work with spinal cord clients, in order to release that, like I would use myofascial release, and what it does is give you almost like a muscular reset. So when you do that, though, your fascia unwinds. So if you've ever had a massage where you have like these weird tremors or jerking, that's kind of what's happening, is your fascia is paying attention to like, oh, here's a spot. So like if I'm doing hands-on work, then, and I notice some tremors, I may either continue to work on that. I have to use my own intuition to gauge if they're ready for that. Because some people go through, I'm not going to say it's a flashback necessarily, but your body almost remembers exactly when that happened, no matter how many years it's been. And when that opens up, even though there's a great amount of relief with it, it's also brought that up for you, and you might have to deal with it in alternative ways too. Did that answer your question? Yeah, okay.
Are you located here?
I'm here. Yeah.
You live here, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I know that.
Well, not in the house. I live in the camper beside the house.
You live close enough to me.
Yeah.
We're gonna need to talk.
Okay. Yeah.
Fine.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you
Yeah.
for this.
Anything else?
What is the, like I know it's dependent upon everything, so I won't ask you like the most important thing, but what would be like the first step step to assessing what you need?
So I usually just start with massage. And I have my own method for that. Like I've gotten extensive training. Like, do you mean, let me ask you this. Do you mean emotionally or physically?
Yes.
We learned something today.
So for me, the way I discover what's going on with somebody, actually, before I just did this training in Florida, my approach was very different. I use meridian lines and acupressure points because they're tied to organs and organs are tied to emotions. So when I would give a session to somebody, I'm like, well, there's some anger in there. You don't say anything out loud. I'll just note it in my mind. So I know that there's going to be these places that need extra work. So that's been my process for forever. So for me, you don't have to say anything to me. I already know, but the more I work with a person, the more that starts to surface. And it's now we need to do some deeper work. This is where myofascial release and craniosacral therapy would come into play, right? So then we're doing some heavier work in order to move you physically through your emotional body. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. Did I answer your question though?
Well, I mean, I think what I was going for is you're doing that on a professional level as a service for somebody else. Like
Yeah.
I'm trying to assess myself.
Yourself. So that starts with self-awareness, which means that you need to like do a body check. You start, where am I holding it? Am I clenching my jaw? Am I holding my shoulders up here? Does my tailbone hurt every day? Like, do I have bad hips and bad knees? Like, when you're starting paying attention to the things that are happening in your body, then that's usually tied to something else. So pay attention to your body. That's where I would suggest you start. If you need help with that, you can give me a call. You have my phone number. So.
I'm just repressing all of my emotions all the time. That's healthy, right?
Absolutely.
Soon she'll be selling subscription cards. All right, let's give Jenny a 15-minute privacy over here. And the QR code's right there too, but it's almost gone, and there are some cups around. Next up, we have Joel Riles, who's going to talk to you about the opposite of this, pretty much. He's going to talk about defense, like making defense a system rather than a one-off thing, like self-defense.
So instead of hugging you and making you cry, it's gonna put your face until you not cry.
Correct.